Hi everyone, broadcasting to you from the top of the Paderewski Vineyard in the Willow Creek district of Paso Robles. I thought this was a really great place to begin a conversation about our estate blend. So Epoc's estate blend is what I call a snapshot of Epoc's grape growing and winemaking practices in one vintage. So when you take a glass of it, it's kind of like you get this sweeping taste of what Epoch was like in a certain year. Now the wines that make up the estate blend are always at least the four varieties: Syrah, Mourvedre, Grenache, and Tempranillo. Occasionally there might be a Petite Syrah, Zinfandel, and Carignan that makes it into the blend. But for the most part, it's Syrah driven with the three other varieties. Since we're here, I'm going to do a panoramic of the Paderewski Vineyard from a very great vantage point to see a lot of the different blocks and aspects and undulating hills on this vineyard. Our first planting, which we began in 2004, contains 22 different blocks on this property, within which we have 21 sub-blocks. So a vineyard block is a block because it has a unique soil, topography, or aspect to the sun, and therefore we separate it, and then we match the rootstock and the variety and even the trellis system to that block. Then there's other small changes, slight soil changes, slight aspect changes, nothing major that might happen within a block, and that's how we create the sub-blocks, and then we match changes in rootstock and varieties to those sub-blocks as well. So I want to show you too, we're gonna put up a map so you can sort of see, as if you were standing overhead, all the different blocks that are here. But it's just really cool to see that you get all of this in one sip of Epoc's estate blend. It's a breezy afternoon in the Catapult Vineyard, which is normal for this area because we are smack dab in the middle of the Templeton Gap. It's also in the Willow Creek district, just a little bit further south than Paderewski. And I wanted to show these blocks to you today because they produce wines that usually make it into the estate blend as well. The Catapult Vineyard is two complete hills, and so the blocks make up what looks like a patchwork quilt of different varieties and rootstocks as we try to match them the best we can to what Mother Nature has given us. It's hard to see from a distance, but the soils are almost completely shale here. There's not a lot of limestone. Very well drained, and actually very, very low in nutrients. So the vines here struggle to produce uber concentrated and uber flavorful wines. This is a Grenache. Fresh from the vineyard, here we are in Epoc's winery and going to enjoy a taste of the 2014 estate blend. See, I've already enjoyed a taste of it. This is a really interesting vintage for this wine because it has equal parts Syrah and Mourvedre. It is 36% Syrah, 36% Mourvedre. Additionally, it has 22% Grenache and 6% Tempranillo. It also has more Catapult Vineyard than it does Paderewski, which is also different. 56% Catapult, 44% Paderewski. I mentioned a lot about the 2014 vintage when I was talking about the 2014 veracity. You can check that video out for more detailed information. Summarized to say that it was a very warm vintage. It was what we like to call classically Paso Roblan because the wines that came from that vintage were very intense. They were very fruity. They had lots of gorgeous silky tannins, and they tasted really great young, but if you did things the right way in the winery, they're aging really well too. So when I smell this wine, I'm just struck with the aromas of black cherries, Bing cherries, wild concentrated strawberry, sweet plum. There's a vanilla bean essence along with toast, so I know the oak is there, but it's kind of playing along with everything. There's some savory aromatics. I'm getting sort of resinous bay leaves or briar patch character, and some roasted meats and a little bit of sea air. So I love all of that. Let's see what it tastes like. The palate has so much fruit as it enters. It's got that huge yum factor. It's like a veil of velvety fruit flowing across the palate. It's big and it's unctuous, but it doesn't ever get flabby because you've got this beautiful acidity and tannin kind of weaving their way through the velvet and like pinning the wine up across your palate so it never falls flat. And it's really important to have the acid and the tannin along with the fruit to give you this wonderful experience that moves the palate from the front to the back, and then when you swallow, it also lingers and comes forward in sensation. When wines are younger, a lot of times the fruit is separate from the acid, which is separate from the tannin, and that's where we talk about wines being disjointed a lot of the time. This wine is so beautifully integrated at the moment. All of these three components are playing so nicely together, and as the wine is aging and some of that uber over-the-top fruit is kind of calming down, I'm noticing so many other complexities coming out. Again, there's more of the savory components, there's minerality, there's earthiness. It's fun to watch this wine develop in the cellar. It's tasting great now, and it will age really well for several years. Since we got a sweeping overview of Epoch's vineyards while talking about the estate blend, let me give you a sweeping overview of the fermentation room. Concrete fermenters are one of our favorite vessels to ferment in. We got to design these bad boys. They hold about 4 tons of fruit, and they have glycol pipes running through them so that we can control the temperature of the fermentation. On the opposite side, we have our 3.5-ton stainless steel fermenters. They're open tops. They have glycol control as well. So here I am in Epoch's barrel cellar to talk to you about the 2015 estate blend. But before we can taste the wine, we must talk about the vintage. Looking back, we were pretty sure at the time of the 2015 harvest that the wines were going to be pretty similar to 2014. We had an early bud break. We had a pretty warm August, actually a really hot August, and we had a super early harvest. So those things were very similar to 2014, but there were some differences. The early bud break in 15 was followed by a really cool spell in the spring. And then the summer was actually really mild, except for August. August was hot. And as winemakers, we remember the day before us, and we think it's hot, the fruit is colored, it's getting sugar, it's gonna be so ripe so fast. We also had a really tiny crop in 15, which made us think that the wines were gonna be really concentrated. At the end of the day, we were presented with these uber elegant wines that were a little more convoluted at the beginning. They took a little bit of time to develop in barrel in the cellar, and then obviously they're developing in bottle now in our bottle cellars. So it was just extremely different than what we had expected, and it took a little bit of time to process the reasons why. Most of them I've outlined here in terms of they were climactic, but every vintage is different, which is the wild card for us winemakers. Now we get to taste the 2015 estate blend. The 15 estate blend was more of a normal estate blend for Epoch. How many times did I just say blend? It has 61% Paderewski Vineyard and 39% Catapult, so Paderewski Vineyard dominant. It's also Syrah dominant at 53%. It's got 26% Mourvèdre, 13% Grenache, 5% Tempranillo, and we do have a little bit of Zinfandel in this blend at 3%. So I've already tasted some, I'm gonna taste some more, talk to you about it. I always smell, figure out the aromatics before I taste. So with this 15 estate blend, I am getting, first off, all of the good aromatics that come with reductive Syrah. And so when I talk about reductive Syrah, I'm really talking about the reductive aromas that come from winemaking without oxygen. So here, it's presenting itself with a lot of savory components. I'm getting fresh earth, roasted rare meat, black and green olive brine, some tar, some forest floor. Really those delicious, very food-friendly, savory components. I also, after I kind of get a whiff of all the savory stuff, I'm noticing more lavender coming out, and that's making way for the fruit to show its face. I've got a lot of fresh red fruit in this wine. red cherries, red raspberries, red plums. Kind of get a red pluot, for those of you who know what that is. It's a cross between a plum and an apricot, and some black cherry in there as well. All fresh though, just kind of like you just took a bite of the fruit. After the fruit, I kind of noticed the spice components coming into the wine. I've got licorice, I've got vanilla, I've even got some cola, which to me is working as a spice element in this wine. It's a really unique nose and is ever evolving. Excited to taste it now. The 15 Estate Blend is in a great spot right now. It's one of those vintages that I would love to bring to sommeliers or wine aficionados that have more of an old world wine palate, because it's showing all the different gears that you can get from West Paso. This more mild vintage is showing lots of elegance right out the bat. We don't have to wait for it. We don't have to fight for it as hard. It's floating across the palate with lots of sensation, but never feeling too heavy or too strong in one area. And it's just remaining fresh the entire time. The tannins do start to build in the back palate, but that's to be expected. It's got Tempranillo in it, and it actually adds a lot of liveliness as they fold forward on the palate. There's also a serious mineral component jumping out at me. It gets stronger and stronger. I know it's really hard to describe minerals, but it's here. If you want to taste minerals, taste this wine. Many of you might ask me, should I decant it? I usually say, if you have just a few minutes to enjoy one glass or one taste, then yes. But otherwise, my go-to is opening a bottle, watching it evolve over the course of a meal or an evening, multiple glasses, of course, with different, as the wine, changes temperature, as it's exposed to more oxygen, and just watch as the wine opens up. It's smelling different now than the moment I opened it, so it's really the fun part. Hope you enjoy it. I hope you taste one bottle now, let one bottle age, and track the evolution.